Hello everyone! Welcome to Michio Presents. I'm your host, Michio Porter. Today, I'll be discussing the parallels between Russian mythology and Studio Ghibli animations. You see, ever since I was little, I loved watching cartoons and animations, and the Ghibli movies were a staple in my household. I watched all the movies like Totoro, Howl's Moving Castle, Princess Mononoke, Castle in the Sky, Spirited Away, and many, many more. These movies were filled with monsters, magic, and fantasy, all of which fascinated me to no end. And as I grew older, I began to notice things in the movies, some trends and cultural references that weren't quite Japanese, but rather from a more Western origin. I'll be discussing some of the many parallels and references that I've found in Ghibli towards Russian myths and folktales. One famous being from Russian mythology is the fabled Baba Yaga. She appears in many myths and folktales. Now, some of the many aspects of her character is as follows. A. She's a witch, who sometimes helps and sometimes hurts people. A witch! B. She sometimes rides around in a wash basin. And C. Has a house that walks on chicken legs. Does any of this sound familiar yet? Well, it should. Let's talk about looks. This witch frequently appears as an old lady, hideous, with a hooked nose and sometimes long, straggly hair. In the Ghibli universe, there are many ladies with these features. The first is from Spirited Away and is aptly named Baba. Coincidence? Well, possibly. Baba also means old lady / hag in both Russian and Japanese. However, coupled with these features, as well as the fact that she is also a witch, well, she is an excellent example. Other Baba-esque characters are the pirate mom Dola from Castle in the Sky, Sophie from Howl's Moving Castle, who, incidentally, rides around in a castle with chicken legs for a good portion of the movie, and another, although he is male, Fujimoto from Ponyo, also gives a slight Baba vibe. Moving on. Another household staple in Russian folktales and mythology, and, in some cases, an actual household necessity, was the domovoi. Now, if you can't tell by the repeated use of the word household, he was, you guessed it, a household spirit. He is one of the more benign characters you will meet in the Russian mythos and is very helpful, keeping things running smoothly in your household. Once again, like most creatures in Russian mythology, his image varies through stories and over time. He's a real cryptid type if you catch my drift. Early records describe him as small and hairy, like a cat. Later descriptions show him tall and hairy, and some depictions turn him into what appears to be a gnome? In The Secret World of Arrietty, Arrietty is from a family of tiny people living in the house, and they interact with the character in many ways. The little boy apprentice in Howl's Moving Castle transforms into a hairy old man and is very similar in appearance to some depictions of the domovoi. However, the most striking example of domovoi has to be, hands down, Calcifer from Howl's Moving Castle. You know, the little red flame. Many of his interactions, descriptions, and actions are key features of the domovoi. First, domovoi crave heat and make their dwelling in or under the hearth. Calcifer is a living embodiment of heat and resides in the hearth. Second, domovoi are demons who help those who live in their abode, as does Calcifer when requested by Sophie or Hal. Third, when transferring between homes, or moving to a new home, you must invite your domovoi with you and transfer him using some coals from the hearth. As you can see in this iconic scene from Hal's Moving Castle, they move houses by transferring Calcifer via coals and voila, a new house. And last, when the domovoi is cold to the touch, it predicts death, while warmth foretells good health. If Calcifer was ever extinguished or goes cold, it is a clear indication that Hal would die. The last supernatural being we're going to cover is the Leshy, otherwise known as your friendly neighborhood forest demon. As with most mythical demons in folklore, this demon was a shapeshifter and/or came in many forms. These spirits dwelled in, you guessed it, in the forest. Now, picture this. You're walking through the forest, it's dark, and you're lost. The trees creak with life, and the shadows grow longer as you wander. Out of the corner of your eye, you see something. You see the Leshy. Now, in Ghibli, many of the films depict forests as well as strange beings who dwell within. Some are malevolent, some aren't, while others are a little bit of both. In Russian myths, some stories show the Leshy helping peasants, and in others, hurting them. This duality can be seen in Princess Mononoke with the Kodama. The main character believes that they will be helpful if you are kind to them, while a peasant is terrified of them and believes they will be left astray within the forest and killed. Well, the peasant actually lived in a city as opposed to the main character who lived in a village. These key differences may have affected how they saw the Kodama. Another trait of the Leshy is their tendency to kidnap young girls. So, we have a spirit, sometimes animalistic, who dwells in the forest and kidnaps children. Doesn't this sound familiar? Oh wait, it's Totoro. This furry guy rules the forest, is both friendly and terrifying, and shows varying degrees of ability to control the natural world, and fits the Leshy bill to a T. Another example of the Leshy would be most of the spirits seen in the movie Princess Mononoke. They rule the forest and kill any stray humans who harm their home, as well as make life difficult to any who cross their path. But some, like the forest god, was known to help humans from time to time. And I could go on, with Shita and her grandmother representing the wise old woman and peasant life, to Ponyo and her mother being a Rusalka, and even Fujimoto being a Woronoe. Or that the entirety of Spirited Away was about Banya, and how Nazca of the Wind has references to Polonizia. There are so many examples of Russian influence and parallelism in Ghibli, each one just as fascinating as the last. Sadly, that's all the time I have. But until next time, I'll be downing another pot of coffee.